Although Josh Emmett will enter the main event of UFC Vegas 105 at 40 years young and having not fought since December of 2023, you can't tell me that he's coming into this fight without momentum, because that last fight in December of 2023 was as big of a highlight as he's ever had before.
And you see Mitchell took the center.
But standing in his way from a second consecutive victory and his path back to title contention is the undefeated Brit, Lerone Murphy, looking to bounce into the top 10 for the first time and get the biggest victory of his UFC career to date. For Josh Emmett, he has won 6 of his last 8 fights, and the only 2 losses in that stretch both came back-to-back in 2023, but look at who it was against. It was an interim title fight against Yair Rodriguez where he would get submitted in the second round, and then he went toe-to-toe with the now featherweight champion, at least for one more week until he vacates it at UFC 314 and Alexander Volkanovski and Diego Lopez fight for the title, Ilia Topuria. And yes, while I say he went toe-to-toe, it was an incredible performance from Ilia. I believe there was even a 50-43 scorecard in there, if I'm not mistaken. Scratch that. There was a 50-44 and a 50-42. But he bounced back from those back-to-back losses in 2023 at the very end of the year at UFC 296, and bounced back in a big way did he ever by starching Bryce Mitchell with one of the most brutal knockouts in featherweight, let's just call it UFC history. So although he's 40 years old as of March 4th of this year, he is 19-4 overall, 9 finishes, 7 of those by knockout, and I think that Josh Emmett is one of the more underappreciated featherweights of all time in my opinion. He has high-level victories across the board against big-name fighters, but time waits for no man, especially in these lower weight classes. But can he prove Father Time wrong, at least for one more fight, and hold off the momentum that Lerone Murphy is riding, and snatch that undefeated record away while he's at it? Lerone Murphy made his UFC debut back at UFC 242 in September of 2019 and fought to a draw with Zubaira Tukhugov, and since then has not looked back. He has won 7 consecutive fights, and he had a huge year in 2024 with his first ever main event coming against Edson Barboza, the 2-weight veteran, and he got the unanimous decision victory in a very fun competitive fight. And then at UFC 308 in Abu Dhabi in October, we would see him fend off Dan Ige. I think the biggest problem for Lerone Murphy in terms of people not really giving him the respect that he has earned over the course of this 7-fight win streak is that 5 of them are by way of decision, 4 of them in a row dating back to March of 2023. So the last time that Lerone Murphy got a finish was in October of 2021 at UFC 267 against Makwan Amirkhani. But finishing prowess aside, or lack thereof, you can't take away the skill set, the high-level skill set at that Lerone Murphy possesses, and at 33 years old, he is 7 years younger than Josh Emmett, and he is right in his prime. He is well-versed in all facets of the mixed martial arts game and continues to improve fight by fight and shows small evolutions in each of those bouts. And I think here in this one, he's going to have to showcase his chin more than he ever has before, because no one in the featherweight division in this current state has the knockout power, one-punch knockout power, should I say, of Josh Emmett. I think we're actually in for a very fun treat in this 145-pound weight class, and it's kind of low-key kick-starting a featherweight tournament. Kind of like the middleweight marathon that was in February with 5 fights, I think, all in the top like 12 or 13 spots. This one is between number 8 and number 10. Then next week, we have the championship fight between the number 1 and number 3 ranked Volkanovski and Lopez. And on the very same card, we see Bryce Mitchell trying to hold his top 15 spot against unranked but surging fighting nerd Jean Silva. The featherweight division is very fun right now, and it's kind of all up in the air at the same time, with fighters like Ilia Topuria vacating his belt and former champion Max Holloway also moving up to lightweight to finish off his career. And how could I forget the other featherweight fight at UFC 314 that just hit me? The former interim champion and top 5 ranked Yair Rodriguez is welcoming in the former multi-weight world champion in Bellator, Patricio Pitbull. And should he win against Rodriguez in his debut, I absolutely guarantee he'll be fighting the winner of Lopez versus Volkanovski. Well, I guess Movsar Evloev is in the conversation as well. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts not only on this main event between Lerone Murphy and Josh Emmett and the stakes involved between holding the top 10 spot if you're Emmett or launching into the top 10 if you're Murphy, but pair this fight and the importance with the rest of the movement happening in the featherweight division all in a week's time of one another. And of course, I want to hear your predictions and maybe even your bets for this UFC Vegas 105 main event in the comments below as well. Are you siding with the 40-year-old veteran in Josh Emmett, looking to make it 2 straight wins and launching himself one step closer to putting himself back into title contention? Or are you siding with the undefeated, not so much prospect anymore, but surging veteran Lerone Murphy, looking to make his name bigger than it's ever been before by taking out Josh Emmett? And now that we are done with the main event, let's get into the rest of the card. And well, it's not the greatest card, but there are some notable fights that could produce some pretty fun results on this night. Sticking in the featherweight division, the co-main event is a pretty intriguing bout between Pat Sabatini and Joanderson Brito. The 34-year-old Sabatini is looking to make it back-to-back victories as he is coming off of a win in October against Jonathan Pierce where he submitted him in the first round. And Joanderson Brito is looking to bounce back from his very controversial loss to William Gomez last September because prior to that, he had tallied off 5 wins in a row. And the winner of this is right on the cusp of a top 15 ranking in this featherweight division, or at bare minimum, getting a ranked fighter in their next outing. But first, you gotta get a win here Saturday night. 2 middleweight veterans are on the main card, Brad Tavares and Gerald Meerschaert, the all-time leader in submissions in the middleweight division. Tavares has lost 4 of his last 5 fights, including 2 losses in 2024, a split decision to Jung Young Park in October, and a knockout loss to RoboCop in February. And GM3 had a pretty solid 2024 overall, going 2-1, but he is entering this fight off of the heels of a loss, and that was to Ranier de Ridder, the former 2-weight world champion in one championship, where he would give him all that he could handle before getting submitted in round 3 after essentially gassing out. Torrez Finney, the only fighter to ever fight and win 3 times on the Dana White Contender Series, makes his long-awaited debut in the UFC. He is 10-0 overall with 8 finishes, 7 of those 8 by way of knockout, and may have the most unique physique of any fighter in the UFC right now, but damn it, I love it. And he's taking on the 10-4 Robert Valentin, who is 0-1 in the UFC. He lost his debut last August. Ode Osbourne is looking to right the ship, having lost 4 of his last 5 fights, including an 0-2 year in 2024 with losses against Ronaldo Rodriguez and Jafel Filho. But in order to bounce back and right the ship in his career, he will be taking on and have to take out the undefeated newcomer to the UFC, 31-year-old Luis Gurule, who is 10-0 with 6 finishes. The former Fury fighting champion is coming off of a 2024 Contender Series victory via split decision in October. And last but not least, more than likely the fight of the night for this card, excluding potentially the main event, depending on how long it goes, Davey Grant is taking on Daniel Santos. Davey Grant enters this fight having won 3 of his last 4 with 1 win in 2024, the only fight of the year for him as a matter of fact, and it was the decision against Ramon Tavares. And although Daniel Santos did not fight at all in 2024, he enters this fight on a 2-fight win streak with a victory over Johnny Munoz via decision in June of 2023 and a knockout against John Castaneda in October of 2022. So although he's riding momentum, he is not riding a lot of momentum in terms of activity, and that could prove to pay dividends, not for him, but for the veteran Davey Grant. So be sure to give me your thoughts on this UFC Vegas 105 fight card in the comments down below, mainly your predictions for that UFC Vegas 105 main event between Josh Emmett and Lerone Murphy, who gets one step closer to featherweight title contention at a very important time in history for the 145-pound weight class. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new, where every single week I preview each card and talk about the best fights and all of the biggest storylines heading in, and I recap the most meaningful results from each card as well. And I give my thoughts and opinions on MMA news and fight announcements. You can join the community on social media at Verbal Spar MMA on X, Instagram, and TikTok, and you can follow on your favorite audio listening platforms such as Spotify and Apple, where podcast episodes release there every Monday and Friday. Have a great weekend, enjoy the fights, and I will see you all in the next video.